Hello and welcome to the video. This is part 1 of a 2-part series with both parts being released on the same day. In this video series I will be comparing and testing popular all-in-one brewing systems from brands that are available worldwide with their regular sized and larger sized brewing systems. These videos will look at the facts with a minimum amount of opinion so that you the user can make an informed choice based on facts. I am also sharing the results of heating speed tests. Let me make it clear right from the start that all of these 3 brands offer great equipment, but they all have their own niche when it comes to price, features and brewing experience. So let's get started. Here is a side-by-side look at some of the brewing systems in this comparison. I do not currently have a Grainfather G70 nor a Brewtools 80, but I will be including them within my comparison data so that they are represented. You can see that these systems come in different shapes and sizes that are mostly not so different in height, but the larger systems are certainly wider, taking up more floor space. Here is a group photo of all 4 brewing systems for a snapshot view. Let's now look at the approximate dimensions of each system, both in metric and imperial measurements. It should be made clear here that the Brewtools systems are designed to be placed on a bench top or table, whereas both the BrewZilla and Grainfather systems are designed to be placed at floor level. The Brewtools 80 Pro has the largest volume capacity here, whereas the BrewZilla 35 clearly has the smallest. The Grainfather G70 is certainly the tallest system here, measuring from floor to top at 830mm or 32.6 inches, which is a sizable difference compared to the other systems in this comparison, whereas the BrewZilla 65 Gen 4 is the widest at 850mm or 33.46 inches. There are certain pros and cons when it comes to brewing system height versus width. Height versus user comfort will come down to the brewer's own height, but when it comes to systems with false bottoms, a wider false bottom is more forgiving than when it comes to pump flow than something more narrow. Let's now look at the lids for these systems. The Grainfather and BrewZillas all have glass lids, whereas the Brewtools has a stainless steel lid. A glass lid is useful for holding temperature whilst mashing and also being able to see what is going on inside. It also offers a reasonable level of insulation during temperature ramp up. A stainless steel lid will certainly be more insulating during temperature ramp-up times, but will need to be removed during the boil and mash. Naturally, you will need to be more careful with a glass lid compared to a stainless steel one. I have not smashed one so far, but they are not super expensive to replace if you do. Each of these systems from the different manufacturers has a different type of grain basket or malt pipe. Both Grainfather and BrewZilla have now updated their latest grain baskets so that no overflow pipe is needed. This does not include the Grainfather G70 though, which like the Brewtools system still uses a middle pipe to handle overflow. I have to say that personally I much prefer brewing systems that have no middle overflow pipe with the basket handling overflow. In my experience this works much better and makes in-system stirring during grain entry and the boil more free and easier due to the lack of pipe in the middle. Here is a side-by-side look at all the grain baskets when raised. As you can see, the BrewZillas are the tallest here, but even a short adult will manage. The BrewZilla systems allow for a 2-stage lifting though, as they have 2 sets of feet, which are added to make the lifting easier. I can confirm that each of these systems from the manufacturers offers very good levels of efficiency when used with grain that is suitably milled. Here is a closer look at the grain basket from Grainfather and malt pipe from BrewZilla side by side, which both have perforated holes around the bottom perimeter which allows them to manage overflow. You will note that the perforations on the BrewZilla in this location cover a greater surface area. However, Grainfather have added extra perforated holes on the sides of their basket which lead up higher, which they found benefited in protection against a stuck sparge and mash within their grain basket. Kegland have also experimented with extra higher perforations on their malt pipes but found that it did not offer any advantage and actually resulted in a reduced mash efficiency. I suspect that these findings are very different due to the very different dimensions of these. As you can see, Grainfather's grain basket is wider and shorter, whereas Kegland's malt pipe is taller and slimmer. I have not experienced issues with either, and I have found that both work very well in terms of efficiency as well as ease and speed of use. Here is a chart showing each of the brewing systems in this comparison according to the maximum grain bill. Both Grainfather and Brewtools show what I call an efficient maximum. This means that the maximum amount of grain that you can add and still enjoy reasonable efficiency, whereas Kegland's BrewZilla systems you will see 2 numbers. The first indicates the maximum amount of grain that the malt pipe will hold, and the second number is the efficient maximum. This efficient maximum for all of these systems is based on a more automatic way of brewing where you simply let the system do its thing during the mash. Using more grain than this will lose you some efficiency when brewing in this more automatic way. However, if you are prepared to actually add in some stirring into your mash, then you will be able to actually boost the efficiency back up. Between 1 to 3 stirs during the mash in for a few minutes each is usually going to be sufficient. To put this into context, let's look at the smallest system here, which is the BrewZilla 35 litre, which has an efficient maximum of 8 kilos of grain. You could easily brew an 8% ABV beer within this grain limit to a 1 keg batch size level. In fact, I brewed an 8% New England IPA just recently on the BrewZilla 35 litre system with just 6.6 kilos of grain, which equates to 14.55 pounds. The larger systems here will naturally house more grain within their malt pipes, but this should be compared to the batch size level 2, which is coming in the next section. Before this though, I should point out that with the BrewZilla systems, Kegland have an extended malt pipe, which is a separate purchase that allows for more grain to be used within the brew. Shown on the left on screen are the max malt levels that you saw previously, with the extended amounts shown on the right. As you can see, this boosts the BrewZilla Gen 4 malt levels up by over 20% for each system. These extended malt pipes are also controlling their own overflow via the basket with no need for a middle overflow pipe. Let's now move on to batch sizes. See comparison data on screen for each of these systems. I want to make it clear that much of the data here from the manufacturers are averages and will ultimately be determined by the amount of grain versus the amount of liquid you use, and also the boil-off that your system has in your brewing environment. Your boil-off can be controlled by tweaking power levels, which each of these units provide as a feature. For some brewers, having flexibility of batch size is very important. For others, there is more of an importance around maximum batch size. In my situation, for example, I brew lots of test batches that are as low in volume as I can create them for testing. When I brew a full-size batch, then generally this is to fit 1 corny keg, or on occasion 2. If you are looking for a brewing system that offers the widest range of batch size flexibility, then the Gen 4 BrewZilla 65 wins this contest hands down, with a batch range of between 5 to 55 litres, or 1.32 to 14.53 US gallons. This will cover smaller party kegs and corny 1 keg and 2 keg batches with plenty spare to boot. However, if you are looking for the most beer from one brewing system in this selection, then the Brewtools 80 Pro will output 80 litres, which is just over 21 US liquid gallons. You can go higher than this with their 150 litre model too, and it should also be mentioned here that there will be a BrewZilla 100 litre system appearing in the near future too. Or perhaps the Grainfather's G40 batch range of between 10 to 40 litres is ideal for your normal brewing range. Furthermore, it should be noted that if the Grainfather G70 is equipped with the micro pipework, which is a further purchase to the brewing system, then its minimum batch size can be reduced down to 30 litres, or 7.93 US liquid gallons. So perhaps this fits for you too. My suggestion is that you compare this batch size data alongside the grain bill levels that I shared earlier, and this will guide you as to how strong you'll be able to brew to within your usual batch range when brewing with single mash. All brewing systems have this limitation, and the stronger beers like imperial stouts and IPAs will need more than one mash, which is known as reiterated mashing, a topic that I've covered more than once on my channel. It should also be mentioned that the BrewZilla units compared here can also be upgraded in volume further by a relatively new product range that Kegland call boil extenders. Both the 35 litre and 65 litre units can be extended by up to 2 extensions with an acceptable level of performance drop, which boosts the volumes of these considerably. This allows the 35 litre system to have an extended volume of 59 litres or 15.5 US liquid gallons, and the 65 litre system to have an extended volume of 113 litres or 29.8 US liquid gallons. This now concludes part 1 of this guide. Part 2 is available for you to watch now and features a heating speed test and full details about heating power, as well as comparisons of controllers, cooling, brewing experience and pricing. I do hope that you found this video useful, informative and interesting. If so, why not consider liking and subscribing? For further support, you can join the channel's Facebook group, and if you would like to support the channel, then check out the channel's merchandise store, as all profits go back into the channel. Until next time, happy brewing!